I'm sharing my screen. See, this is actually AWS console. Okay, I have some free account in this. You'll get some free account, but monthly you'll get some below. Or if you go for Google Cloud, you'll get 3 months free with the $300 credit. Okay. So I created one EC2 instance. EC2 instance is like a virtual machine. In this virtual machine, I'll install the Dockers. Say, for example, I created one machine here. I'll just open the Docker. Or what I'll do is for you, yeah, I'll create a Docker image. So what I'll do is I'll remove for your, okay, I'll remove this. But let me start another. I'll create one more instance. For your sake, I'm creating one more instance. Okay. And then I will. Okay, just I'll select. You don't need 16 GB. If you have 8 GB memory, also fine. You have all very heavy machines. You can select CPU. See, VCP means virtual CPU. Okay. Ideally, these are the virtual machines. Internally, they are created over physical machines, as I was telling you. And these are the different instance types, like 16 vCPU, 64 GB memory, 8 vCPU, 32 GB memory. Okay, I can select based on my need. Let me go for 4 CPU and let me go to this 2 vCPU and 4 GB memory. Okay. And I'll use this to log into this virtual machine. Okay, to log into this virtual machine, I will create some key value pair. Okay, for that I have already a key value pair. We don't need password. We can log in with this key pair. And for now, I'll just allow traffic from this. And then I'll create one instance with 8 GB. I'll create launch instance. So you'll get an IP address. You can connect to this thing. I'm just connecting here. Okay, what I have selected. Okay, let me delete this. I'll select Ubuntu actually. Better, I'll select Ubuntu. 1 minute. I'll delete this. I'll select Ubuntu, okay? So Docker demo server 1. I'll select Ubuntu. Better, I'll select Ubuntu. And Ubuntu is another Linux operating system. T2 micro is free, but better will get with from at least for Docker we should have at least 4 GB RAM. So this is the key pair, and I'll allow HTTPS, HTTP traffic. Just a launch instance. Okay. Now you will get an IP address. You see, you can use Putty software. Everyone is having Putty, right? You can install that. Putty. Using Putty, you can connect to remote machine. And how will you download Putty? Go to your this site, download Putty. Putty.org. Download Putty, you'll download it. Now go to your Putty. Give your IP address here. Give your IP address. Okay. And then just to say, select this select auth security, and here you can go to for browse and select this key. Okay, just for security, see SSH, auth. See how I'm doing. Select SSH, auth, and give this pair. It is a PPK file where you don't need to use password to log in. You can use this key file. Okay, SSH, and here you select auth and click the browse button and select this key pair. This key pair might have come when you generated the EC2 instance. At the time you might have generated this key pair. And then click on session. This is your IP address, SSH, open, accept. Now you are logging into the virtual machine. The default password for Ubuntu is Ubuntu 1. Now you see, you logged into the virtual machine. So this is your virtual machine. From your system, you are logged into the virtual machine. And this is a Linux operating system, Ubuntu. Okay. Now, these are the commands I have put to install the Docker in Ubuntu or Linux operating system, you can actually install it. It need not be 16.0 for Ubuntu. It will be working for the latest Ubuntu also. So you can just install these commands to install the Docker. See what are the bold colors are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Let me install this. See, if I now type Docker, you will get command Docker not found. Okay. Now just install this. First run the update command. See, it will tell that the list of available updates is more than a week old. You are creating EC2 instance, right? You might need to apply some patches, some security update, something. So just run this command first. Sudo is the root user. Sudo means root user. You should know some bit Linux commands. Okay. Sudo is the root user. Right. Next. Setup, install this. Then set up this. Just run the command. That's all. Don't remember this command. Just copy paste. This is for installing the Docker. Next, select this. Next is run this. Next, run this. Okay, sorry. Just enter this. So next, run this. I also have Windows OS only. I just, if you have free cloud account, you can log into the free cloud account. And this is the Linux operating system. Next, install Docker. Okay, just don't remember these commands. I'll share you this document to everyone. You can copy paste. Okay. Now you are installing the Docker engine. Okay, now I'll say I'll type Docker command. Now you see I got the list. That means Docker is installed. That means Docker is installed. Okay, now that means what I have done, if you see, click carefully. Suppose if you have your Mac operating system, Apple laptop, directly in Mac OS, you can install the Docker. Because Mac is another form of Linux, right? So Mac will directly support Docker. Or in Windows, you can install VirtualBox. In Windows, install VirtualBox. In the VirtualBox, install Ubuntu. In Ubuntu, you can install Docker. So that is how you can do. Now what I did is I directly used the cloud machine and connect and created a Ubuntu machine. This is a virtual Ubuntu machine. Ubuntu virtual machine. Ubuntu OS. Ubuntu operating system virtual machine. Now in this I installed Docker. Installed Docker. Okay, installed Docker. In Ubuntu, install Docker. So in Ubuntu OS version, I install the Docker. What is the use of Docker? If I install Docker, if you have Docker in the machine, we can create containers. And what do you mean by containers? A container is a lightweight application packaging, lightweight application packaging machine. That means, so I can create multiple containers. 1, 2, 3, and each container is again treated as a separate machine. The machine inside this containers will be there. Each container will be treated as a separate machine. That means this will have its own virtual RAM. I mean, all that. It will behave like this. Will behave like here. I'll have an application. Here I'll have an application or process. So each container, but they share the same operating system of the base. That means this, if this is the base operating system or host operating system, host OS, these containers will share the same operating system as the main machine, but they will behave like a separate machine. This will have its own IP address, okay, and this will have its own file system, just like how your machine is having file system space. This will have its own file system space. This will have its own separate virtual RAM, everything. So these are the lightweight containers. And you can take this container and deploy in another machine also. So that it will work like again a separate machine. Okay, especially if you see microservices thing. In microservices, you will use containers. Say this one service will be running in one container, one service will be running in another container. And how this container will not have access to this. They will communicate only through network. Okay, these containers will communicate through network. Okay, so that is what. So if you have Docker engine, you can create the containers. Now we'll see how we can create the containers. Okay, using Docker. First step. To create Docker containers, first we should create Docker image. What is a Docker image? Docker image is code that runs in container. So Docker image is code that runs in Docker container. Say, as I told you, container is nothing but, say, I want to build a database container. So for that, we should have database Docker image. So I should have built a MySQL database container. So we should have MySQL database Docker image. And what this MySQL database Docker image will contain? It will contain the code. This will contain the code of MySQL software of MySQL, where this will contain the code of MySQL software or code of MySQL. So if you have this Docker image, from this Docker image, okay, we can create a container. So from Docker image, we can create container. From Docker image. So like this, for example, so I have a Docker image. So I have a Docker image. From Docker image, I can create a Docker container. Okay. So in this, there are predefined Docker images already built in, already predefined Docker images. Okay. And custom created Docker images. That is custom created. That means where you will be creating custom created Docker images. For example, predefined Docker images are standard softwares like MySQL Docker image. So many are there. Okay, like if you need actually Tomcat Docker image. Okay, there are different Tomcat. Next, JDK Docker image. Java. For Java also you can have. Okay, then you can have Nginx Docker image. Nginx, you know, right? Nginx is a web server. Docker image. Like that. And so many, hundreds of predefined Docker images. You can use whatever you need. So these Docker images are stored. These Docker images are stored in a central repository. These images are stored in central repository called Docker Hub. Docker Hub. And you can see the Docker Hub where it is actually. You can go to Docker Hub. It will contain thousands of standard images. It is a container image library. If you have actually this one, you can see actually all the images. Okay, Alpine. Alpine is a minimal Docker built on Alpine Linux. Okay, so if you use this image, you'll get actually Linux Ubuntu Docker image. Okay, then Python, you'll get Redis. All these are standard. Postgres, Node, MySQL. Okay, OpenJDK. These are all official Docker images. Okay, where you can see Nginx. Nginx is a web server. Elasticsearch, like that, you'll get thousands of Docker images. Okay, it's thousands. Now you have to do whatever you need. Say for example, now custom created Docker images are, say now I have built a Spring Boot application. Okay, let me say I have built implemented a Spring Boot application, a Java Spring Boot application. Now I want to run this Spring Boot application as a Docker container, right? Once it is launched as a container, I can access like this a machine. Now, for that, what I have to do? First step is to launch a container, run a container. I should have Docker image built. That means first we need to create a Docker image from the Spring Boot application. And this Docker image, whatever you are creating, is a custom creating. You are creating, okay? Because this is your own Spring Boot application, and now you want to create a Docker image from the Spring Boot application. So that is you are creating. And how do you create this Docker images? There are some steps actually. See, first to create a Spring Boot application Docker image, okay? To run the Spring Boot application, what should be there? First, there should be a JDK software, right? If you want to run this in a machine, there should be a JDK software. Say, and first JDK software should be there. Then what you have to have? Then on top of that, you will be running the Spring Boot application. Right? Now you see, first to have JDK software, already you have JDK Docker image. You can take that image. You can take that image from the thing. Then you should have a Spring Boot application, which is part of your thing. So you can take this. Now these two, okay, these two you are combining. These two you are combining and forming another Docker image. This whole combination, you are creating another Docker image. New Docker image. This new Docker image now contains JDK software image plus your Spring Boot application. So this is a new Docker image. That means to create a new Docker image, you will be creating from the base Docker images. And this new Docker image is your custom created Docker image. Okay. So to create new Docker image, you will be creating from base Docker images. So one image top, another image top, another image, like. Okay. Suppose you don't have a Spring Boot application, you have a normal MVC application, normal standard servlet application. For that, what you have to do? First you should have JDK Docker image. Then on top of that, you should have another image, which is Tomcat. And on top of that, you should have another. You should now copy your Java normal Java servlet application. And then this entire combination now you can create as a custom Docker image. And now this Docker image, I can run this I can create from this Docker image as a container. And this container will run this application or this application based on the Docker image. Now, first thing, I have base images. Now, from the base images, how I will create the custom created Docker image. These are the base images, predefined Docker images. These Docker images are available already in the Docker Hub. So from this base image, how I will be creating the custom created Docker image. Okay. For that, we will be using, okay, how we will be creating the Docker images. For that, we will be using a file called Docker file. A file called Docker file. Okay, Docker file will have instructions. Docker file will have instructions to create a Docker image, or instructions or commands to create a Docker image. And we are going to see some instructions, important instructions in Docker file. Okay. Let us take one instruction. I'll tell you. Let us take one instruction. There are some instructions. Let me take one instruction. Let me take this instruction. Simple. This is one Docker file. This is one Docker file. In this, what we are specifying, you know, this from is one instruction or command, and copy is another command. What from will do and what copy will do, I'll tell you. Okay, so this is a simple Docker file. What it is doing, I'll tell you. So from, okay, from what it does is, say, as I told you, you are building a custom, or I'll open here. You are building a customized image from the base image. Okay, you want to use, first you have to use a base image, then only you can create a custom image. So from will specify the base image. From the base image we are creating. So now we are creating a Docker image for NGINX web server. Okay, we are creating a Docker image for NGINX web server. NGINX is a web server, just like Tomcat. Now for that, what we have NGINX base image. Okay, we are now creating a Docker image from NGINX. So from command specifies the base image. From which base image we are pulling it. So here in this example, NGINX. Okay. Now you know what will happen now if I specify like this. So I'm specifying like this. So this command will pull the will pull the base image, which is NGINX. And from where it will pull? It will connect to the Docker hub. It will connect to automatically Docker hub from your machine through internet. It will connect to the Docker hub, and this is a public image. So this is a public image. To connect to Docker hub for public image, you don't need to use password. But there are some private images. For that, you have to use password. Okay, like that. Okay. So this is a base image. Now, from this base image, you know what we'll do? Now, from this base image, when you do a Docker build, okay, when Docker image is being built, intermediately, it will create a container. It will create a container. From this, an intermediate container will be launched. Intermediate container will be created. Container will be created internally. Okay. Now, in this intermediate container, now you can think like this is a separate machine. Now the copy command, what it will tell is, the copy command will copy the index.html. Index.html to this path. To this path. To this to the path we specific, to the user share NGINX HTML, to this path. From where it will copy? This entire thing is where? This you are using this virtual machine, right? This entire thing you are doing in the your Linux machine, right? In the your machine, virtual machine, or if you are having the Linux operating system machine, physical machine, virtual machine. Now here, from where in some path you will be using this one, right? So your index.html should be in that path. Okay. Or in other words, this is a Docker file. This is a Docker file, right? This you will be saving in a Docker file. The name itself is a Docker file. And this file you will be saving in some path. Wherever this Docker file is there, copy the index.html in that path. Now what this copy will do is, it will take this index.html from this path and it will copy to this container. And now after completing this command, now this will launch one final image, one final Docker image. This is only temporary, that's all. This is only temporary. So this final Docker image, you know what it will have? It will have NGINX plus the HTML, the index.html. The index.html. Index.html is your own file. It is your own file. Say, this copy command, what it does? It will copy the index.html from your host machine file path. See your Docker file. See, let me tell you one thing. I'll write here. See, what I'll do is, see, I'll just say v8 Docker file. Okay, v8 Docker file. VA is for editor. So what I'll do, I'll say from NGINX. Okay, then copy. It is better to use in capital letters, from. Next, copy index.html / user share nginx /html. I'm using here. This is my Docker file, and this is in which path? Currently in this home Ubuntu path. Now I should have index.html in this path. This is my own file. I will create the HTML file like this. H1 H1. This is DevSecOps course studying Docker. This is some HTML. Okay. I just say like this. Now this index.html is also in the same path. Is in the same path of Ubuntu. If I just say ls, you should know some basic Unix commands, okay, Linux commands. So this is your Docker file, and this is your index.html. Now, when I say Docker build, now when I say, now how I'll build a Docker image? So first you should have a Docker file. First you should write a Docker file. And this Docker file, okay, you should use command called Docker build. There's a command called Docker build. Docker build, okay. This is a Docker file. So you should use a Docker build. This will create a Docker image. So during Docker build only, it will read step by step of this. Okay, it will read step by step of this. This is your Docker file. So during Docker build only, it will read line by line. Okay. So first it will take from nginx, from the base image. Okay. It will take from the base image. Next it will build a intermediate container. In the intermediate container, it will copy the index.html from your, okay, this wherever this file is there, this will be there in your Ubuntu machine, right? So in wherever this file is there, this index.html also will be there. It will copy to this path, and this path is your nginx path, because this nginx is having base image, right? In that base image, this path will be there. So it will copy this index.html to HTML. Okay. Now you will get a final image, and this final image is this one. And this final image, what it contains? It contains nginx plus index.html in this path. Okay. Final image contains nginx plus index.html in the nginx path. Okay. So how to execute the Docker build? So now I'll tell you. So sudo Docker build. Sudo is your root permission. Okay. -t. Okay. You can give like my image. Give some name to this. Okay. -t is then give some name. And dot means your current directory. So it will refer the Docker file. Now you see it is building, you see. See pulling, you see the command here. From nginx means it is pulling from library. Which library? Your Docker hub library. Okay. And then it is copying index.html to this. Now I got Docker image created. To see that list of Docker images, see, this is the way how we'll build. So this is the command. Docker build. This command will create Docker image with name my image from Docker file. Okay. Now to list the Docker image, if it is created or not, to list or see whether it is created or not, I'll say sudo Docker images. Now you see, I got this is Nginx is the base image. On top of that, my image has been created, my own image. The name I have given as my image, right? So this is my own image. You see at the bottom. You see, and this is the image ID. So this will list sudo Docker images. So this command will list Docker image along with image ID. Okay. Now to run Docker image, I'll set sudo Docker run. So, or to create it, or we can say like this, to create a Docker container from Docker image. From Docker image to create Docker container from Docker image, I'll say sudo Docker run. I'll give image ID. What are the image ID? This is the image ID, right? I'll give image ID. Okay, just one. 1 minute. Huh? Okay. So I'm just trying to. No, it is not. No, I'm not clearing actually. I'm just trying to view the Docker image. For that command, I'm looking actually. 1 minute. No, I'm not clearing it actually. I know the clear command. I'm just trying to view the content in this image. So that's what. There is one command actually. Okay. Even if you don't know the content, also just for to show you. I mean, this image will contain some. I think. So we have to see this this image. Even if you don't see, also I just wanted to try. That's all. Okay. Something like if it is a dev PMCL, you can use CLM. No. Exec is when you want to actually log into the container shell. When you want to log into the container shell, you will use exec minus ID. Okay. But if you want to see the content, exec will come on. Let me see. Exec. Exec, can you give Docker image ID? You can give inspect. So these are all your Docker. So internally, this is the content actually. This is your root FS, root file system, lower directory. Okay. From here, you can have nginx command. There is one more command that starts with the C. I'm just checking for CMP. I can get the stats of that. That's what I'm checking for. That. I'm checking for the stats of this image. Like at which time this, the size of the image. Here it is already given. But instead of giving all this, it will display in a tabular format. I'm checking for that command, like the stats. There is a stat command actually. If you find, you let me know that command. I forgot that command. CMP stats. I'm just checking for that. No. Docker PS will give the process status. So that is a process status. When you once launch the containers, right, that will give the process status. Docker PS. But this will give actually some stats command. CMP stats. Let me open this. Stats. Okay. So once we launch the container, we can have that. Yes, stat display live stream of container resources. Stat. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just run the container. I'll just run the container. Sudo docker image. Then I'll run this command. Sudo docker run -it -p. I'll tell you what this is. 8080:80 my image. Now you see it is running. See what this command is telling is, I'll tell you. So this command, what this does is, see, my image is your Docker image. My image is your Docker image, right? The image that you created. Now from Docker image, you are creating a Docker container. From Docker image, you are creating a Docker container. Right. Now Docker container will be running in some port. So your nginx will be default port is 80. default port of ngn. Currently you created ngnx, right? Default port is 80. Okay. Now you use a docker run command. Okay. And -it is the -it will actually make the process to run. Okay. Without exiting. And -p is the port mapping. And what this port mapping will do is 8080 is your host port, your host machine port. And 80 is your container port. That means, say you have a host machine like this. You have a host machine like this. Okay. That is your VM. And in this host machine, you launched a container, nginx container. Okay. nginx container. And this container is running on port 80. This nginx is running on port 80. And host machine, okay, you are mapping some port in the host machine 8080, 8080 to this port. Now your host machine will have some IP address, right? Will have some IP address, right? Now if I access IP address colon 8080 port, your host machine port, okay, the request will be redirected to nginx container port 80. You are mapping the host port, host machine port with the container port. And this Docker container, nginx by default will be running on port 80, default port. Now, if I just run this command now, you see, it is running the command now. Okay. Now I think I have to open the host machine port. For that, I'll go to my security groups. Go here. In the inbound rules, you have to edit inbound rules, create add rule. Here you can create 8080 port. You can allow all any traffic. 0 means it is allowing any traffic. Okay. Now go to your instances and then go to your IP address and access 8080. You are given the security group correctly, right? This is the security group. You are allowing the port 8080. Let me try from another shell. From curl it is coming or not. Curl HTTP. Control C. Colon 8080/index.html. Security groups. Which is security group I open? 1 minute. This is your this is your security, right? Inbound rules. Oh, I did not open this. I added, right? Add rule 8080. Any traffic. Add rule. Okay, save rules. To delete this, save rules. Okay. Now you see. So you got right. You are able to access now NGNX. See, you can also access. I'm sharing to everyone. You can also access. Whatever in index.html, that content now is coming, right? If I say this content is coming, right? Okay, now let me see what processes are running, what containers are. Sudo docker ps will give you the list of containers. Sudo docker ps to list the containers running containers. Sudo docker ps. Okay. Next is sudo docker stats Yes, it is giving the container. See how much limit, how much memory it is using. That's what I was looking for this command earlier. Sudo docker ps. Suppose you want to stop the container. Sudo docker ps. Sudo docker stop and give the container ID. Okay. Sudo docker stop to stop the running container. Use sudo stop docker this container ID. Okay. Now you see, if you see sudo docker ps, list the containers again, so you will not see any container. If you want to remove the container permanently, to remove the container, you say sudo docker rm container ID. Next, to remove Docker image, you will say sudo docker. I mean, sudo is your root permission. Okay. If your root permission, you don't need to use sudo. Directly, you can use a docker command. Okay. So sudo is only for root user access. Sudo docker rmi image ID. RM for removing the container, RMI for the image. Understood, everyone? Tomorrow, what we'll see is Spring Boot Docker file. Tomorrow, Spring Boot program with MySQL. Okay, running in Docker. We'll see tomorrow. Spring Boot program running with MySQL, running in Docker. I'll share this document actually. Installation process. You can follow these comments. That's all. I'll share these documents. Just copy paste these comments. That's all. You'll installation. Docker will get installed. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Okay then. All right then. Tomorrow we'll meet. Thank you all. See you tomorrow. Yeah, it's okay. Yesterday I thought Docker. I started Docker. Okay. Thank you.